Welcome to Inside Health, a show where we break down complex health topics into fun and easy to understand discussions meant to help you take charge of your health and your well-being. Well, I'm your host, Chigichi Agorom, and today we'll be discussing the rights of the patients. Who are patients? Do they actually have rights? And if they do, what are those rights and how can they make sure that their rights are not infringed upon? Well, I have two guests in the studio that will help us bring life to this topic. Well, on my right, I have Barrister Ngozi Abafo. She is a principal partner in Chidan Solicitors. Ngozi, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chiji. Thank you, Dr. Chiji. Thank you for having me.
Good. And to my left is the gentleman. He is Ambassador Michael Ugu. He is a life coach, an entrepreneur, and a pastor. He's also the convener of Kind World Transformation Initiative. Ambassador Michael, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So you're welcome. I'm quite curious when you say ambassador, right?
Yeah.
Can you just explain to us how you got that designation ambassador?
Okay, ambassador is a representative of a kingdom or a system in another place, in another country,
Okay.
or on a special assignment.
Okay.
And the Bible said that we are Christ's ambassadors.
Ambassadors.
So we are here to effectively represent the kingdom of heaven that is on the earth.
Brilliant, brilliant. So while we were at the lounge discussing, you related a very heart-wrenching experience
Okay.
that you had. Could you just take us straight, because today we're talking about patients' rights.
Okay.
Because patients are people who, get healthcare services, access healthcare services, so do want to find out if they have rights. But while we're talking, you related a very heart-wrenching, story, personal
Okay.
story of
Okay.
what you went through, in the
Okay.
healthcare system. Could you just take us through it a little bit so we can have an idea of what it is that you have gone through as a healthcare patient?
Okay, thank you very much for that opportunity. Every day is full of experience, one experience, the other. And talking about patients' rights, I believe every human being have a right and every patient have a right. So my own experience in line with that is concerning my wife and I, we have a challenge and will I call it a challenge? Yeah, an experience that is very, very heartbreaking. An issue of the giving birth process, and in the process of that, we'll have the first experience we'll have, the first child, the issue we'll have, she lost it at the time of birth, nearly during the birth period.
Your first baby?
Yes, my first baby, and it was not just funny at all. The experience is heartbreaking, and I believe from the research and observation, it was as a result of infringing of patients' rights and carelessness of some medical practices. So, and if care is not taken and if nothing is done on that, it will keep happening. I'm not just only the person the thing have happened to. I believe there are some other persons that have experienced such things.
But let me understand something. At what point do you feel that the service provided, that there was an issue with the service provided? Was it right through her entire trimester, or there was a particular event that happened that made you say, okay, this is negligence, or someone didn't do what he was supposed to do?
The first trimester was okay. I think it started from the second trimester to the last one. I think the antenatal process, the medical practitioner didn't do what they're supposed to do, because if there is a system whereby if she visited the doctor today and next time to visit another doctor, the doctor should go through the file and find out the formal reports and build on it. I think the issue wouldn't have happened. But I believe it was not done that way, because it's at the end that we're going to find out that the last person was like, what have you people been doing all this time, and was quarreling, have you not been coming to antenatal, the check folder, That means is in the process of that mistakes, negligence, and to the thing that's supposed to be done properly the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay.
And at that time, it was late.
Okay.
And something led to something, and then something happened.
I think we'll still get back to that story, though, but I want to get to the lawyer in the house.
Okay.
Barrister, you heard his story.
Yes.
Now, from what you've heard, and I'm sure you must have heard a few other stories like that, you know, people who believe that they didn't get the requisite healthcare service they deserve
Yes.
in the hospital. Now, just the way we are told that every consumer has a right,
Yes.
you know, consumers of commodities. Do consumers of healthcare have rights? And if they do have rights, what are those rights?
Okay, you see, first of all, it's very important that you define what medical negligence is.
Okay.
When you understand this area of that negligence, then we can go into, people can able to decipher if this is my right or not. Now, medical negligence was propounded in the case of Donoghue versus Stevenson in 1932, where it was where it was decided that everybody has where you have a duty of care. The person who renders that service ought to do what they have to do, which is in the mind of in any reasonable form. Now, coming down to Nigeria now, every patient has a right.
Yes.
You have to be able to establish that duty of care you have to your patients. That duty of, once you are able to establish that there is a duty of care, once you're able to establish that there is a relationship between a patient and a medical practitioner, there is a right.
Okay.
That medical practitioner has a duty of care. Now, where he omits to do what a reasonable man ought to do, then you can classify that as medical negligence.
Okay.
So that is where in the case of Odinaka versus Mohalo also defined what medical negligence is.
Okay.
Where you omit what a reasonable person ought to have done, reasonably ought to do, that amounts to medical negligence, and every patient has a right to institute an action against that medical practitioner.
Okay, so you just explained from a legal point of view,
Yes.
right? At what point can a patient or a patient relative say, this is medical negligence? Given the fact that, okay, I'll give you the statistics,
Yeah.
and about 80%, Nigeria as a nation has only about 80% cardiologists practicing in Nigeria. Now, with most of our doctors and healthcare practitioners, you know, going outside of the country for greener pastures, I mean, would you attribute some of, you know, the gaps because of their mass exit to negligence? What will happen? And then you say, okay, this one is gross negligence. This one is because maybe they don't have much hands. You know, because a well-read person can actually understand what you're saying, what you just explained, but maybe a Mama Nkechi, that's a trader or, you know, an artisan, may not really understand. So what needs to happen, you know, for that kind of person from that kind of background to say, no, I can't take this anymore. This is negligence and I need to address it.
Okay, what needs to happen is where the acts of that medical practitioner leads to an injury or cause of death of such a patient, that is when you can say, yes, there is a negligence on this part.
Okay.
So first of all, the act has to lead to that. Now, for the National Health Act provides that healthcare should be provided within the resources. Now, when you now talk about medical practitioners leaving Nigeria, you know, we all know what the situation is. Like, are those resources there? Are those resources there? So those are the things that should be checked. If the resources are not there, how is the medical practitioner supposed to work? I mean, at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of that medical practitioner or the caregiver. If the resources are not there, you said the resources are not there, you can't do this. It's as simple as that, than to go ahead and put the lives of your patients at risk. So it has to be foreseeable. That action will be foreseeable that, oh, it's just, for example, a particular instrument is not there for you to perform an operation. You're not going to use your bare hands.
Liable.
Yes. You're not going to use your bare hands as a medical. And if it's not there, you say it's not there. You don't have this equipment. You don't go ahead with it. So why put the patient's life at risk? So where your action results to the injury or death of that patient, that is where you say this is where you've crossed the line. And it has to be foreseeable. In most cases, it is foreseeable. Yes.
Okay, so when the action or inaction leads to someone's death or
Yes,
injury.
or injury.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to just hold that thought. I'm going to get back to you.
All right.
Ambassador,
Yes.
it's not in doubt that your family experienced some kind of negligence that led to the death of your baby, which,
Okay.
by the way, please accept our condolences, right?
That's been
So,
God out.
what exactly did you do afterwards? You know, did you leave it to God? You're a man of God, maybe that's the will of God, or did you try to pursue some kind of justice to probably nothing to bring back to your child, you know, but maybe against some kind of, you know, that kind of eventuality happening again to some other person? Did you try to make any complaint? What was it exactly that you did after, you know, that event?
The system is not designed that I didn't see. There's no like from the institution where it happened. There's no place where you can just send feedback to complain. Imagine there's no system where, like, if it is in a place where there is a system that is designed that you have someone to report to or to complain to. I mean, within the organization or the institution, maybe the hospital. There's no place of complaint where you can go lay complain. Even the people you will complain will not even care to some point, and they will even look at a way in order to make it look as if the whole thing is from your hand.
It's your fault.
It's your fault, yes. So, owing to that event, and from all the things we just observed, we just leave everything in the hand of God. Because that's the only thing we can do, because there's no one to go and complain to, or should I go and start maybe going to law, make a law case about that, filing. Barrister, I don't know if it's what I saw.
No, I'm the one asking the questions.
So I understand. So that is not, we don't know, like, if there is within the system whereby maybe where you send feedback. And also there is a system in place to make sure that justice is done to the feedback, not just giving feedback. And maybe you send the feedback and the person in authority that you send this feedback to either query or do the necessary thing that are supposed to be doing or that are supposed to be done in order to make sure that such eventuality does not happen again. So that's the kind of system we have, or we'll find ourselves in.
So let me get back to you, Barrister.
Yeah.
You've heard his story.
Yes.
There's obviously a gap somewhere.
Yeah.
So if eventually the Mama Nkechi that we have been talking about, the hypothetical Mama Nkechi, senses some kind of negligence, she doesn't even know how, or where, to get respite or to get her issue addressed.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
I think like you said, there is a big gap. There's a very big gap. People are not aware of their rights under the law. There are lots of legal frameworks that protect.
No, before we get to the legal aspect, right? Yeah. I believe that there are other tools, other things that they can do within the hospital. I remember if there was a time I had issues in the bank, and I was like, "Where's your manager?" Something like that.
Yes.
I like who is your supervisor, or something like that.
Yes.
Can such happen in the hospital setting?
So should be able to happen in a
able to happen.
Should be. It should be. But just like he said, if he had demanded for a supervisor, what would it? Sometimes you find out that supervisor protects.
Yes.
No, they protect themselves.
They protect themselves. Yes.
They protect themselves, and they don't bring out that person who has committed that negligence. So, but however, it is very imperative that you just consult a lawyer.
Okay.
Because there are ways which you can actually carry out such complaint. First of all, they have this Medical and Dental Council Act which empowers them to enact a disciplinary panel, a panel of investigation, you know. So once the complaint comes in, the panel takes up a plenary investigation and see if there's a substantial complaint.
You know, before we go down that lane,
Okay.
before we go down that lane, he's already smiling. I'm sure they'll ask you.
Yeah.
Consulting a lawyer is not cheap. Is someone, okay, once we are done with this and someone just meets you outside and say, Madam Lawyer, see, say, okay, come for consultation, is so and so amount.
Yeah, I understand.
People have not even fed. Do you understand?
Yes.
And not to talk of, taking, court cases and things like that. So I'm thinking, given your experience as a lawyer, can a patient approach management even though the supervisor, these guys are public servants, for crying out loud?
Yes, that's the first thing. That's the first thing
Yes,
a reasonable and aggrieved person should do. Consult the head of department. Consult the supervisor.
And in any case,
if the supervisor does not, doesn't. You look for someone.
Escalate, right?
Yes, someone. You look for someone on a higher, who has a higher hierarchy to such a person.
Okay.
You understand? Until you get to the medical director. Yes, it is where the medical director does not do anything about it. Then consult a lawyer. You go outside that that environment and look for solution or look for redress to your case.
Okay.
All right. Do you have anything to add to this?
Yes. Okay, let me just say something.
Okay.
In line with what she said, like all those hierarchy of, most of the time the systems are there, but even if you complain, the implementation is lacking. You still come back next year, you still see the same person there, still committing the same event. The same reputation keep occurring in the same institution year after year. I had another person that had another experience this year of recent, but I'll not go into details. It keep occurring. So even if you you complain and they complain, there is no disciplinary measure, there is no penalty, there is no measure to cut off. The purpose of the complaint should be to stop the reoccurrence of the event or improve the practice. But you find out.
Do you think, sorry to cut you short before I forget that, do you think this is a Nigerian factor or is peculiar to the healthcare sector?
I think generally it's the Nigerian factor.
It's a Nigerian factor.
It's a Nigerian factor. Like you said, he left it to God. Should you leave such a thing to God and watch the person do the same thing? You should have made some noise at that time, move to the right departments, make that complaint, and
no, but you would expect that someone who is grieving, needs time to just grieve.
That's the problem now. That time you're grieving, you're forgetting. And for you to be able to bring an action against or against any medical caregiver who omitted what they ought to have done and caused you harm, you might be forgetting the facts along the line. You have to be able to prove that he is supposed to do what he's supposed to do and he didn't do it. So when you're not able to prove it, why will you come? So you do it for the purpose of others that are coming behind you. Not only for yourself, but for the purpose of others, so they don't fall into the wrong hands. That is now where the issue of transparency, him not being able to complain or approach anyone. I think that is where health sector have to provide a transparency, a form of transparency. They have to be transparent and be accountable. And that is the problem we are having in our country.
Okay, now tell us about the legal framework that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Walk us through it. What does it entail? Assuming you have tried to access all the levels in management in the hospital and nothing is done, and you feel, look, I need to seek redress in a court. What's the process? What's the protocol?
Okay, generally the process for someone who has experienced any form of medical negligence, there is a Medical and Dental Practitioners Act
Okay.
that sets up a medical and dental tribunal. So once the complaint goes first to that Medical and Dental Council.
Okay, let me get you right.
Okay,
Someone is aggrieved,
you write a complaint.
You
That's
write-
the first thing.
like a petition
Yes, you write like a
To-
petition. Just the way you write a petition to the police, you write a petition
to,
to the council,
okay,
Medical and Dental Practitioners Council.
and
Okay.
it's functional in Enugu. They have a liaison office of some sort in Enugu.
Definitely, yes, they do.
Okay.
They do. So you have to write a complaint first, just the way you write when you want to complain about somebody at a police station. You write, the Medical and Dental Council takes it, then sets up an investigation panel who conducts a preliminary investigation to your complaint.
Okay.
Now, when they look at it and find out that there is a substantive issue that should be dealt with, they forward it to the tribunal, the Medical and Dental Tribunal. That Medical and Dental Tribunal has the same jurisdiction as the High Court of Nigeria.
Are they in the same pedigree with the National Industrial Court?
Yes, because the National Industrial Court also has the same level as that of the High Court as well. So you take it there, they move it to that place where your lawyers, everybody have their own representative. But one of our arguments is that this council, the tribunal itself is not headed by any legal practitioner amongst all of them. It's headed by mostly
Health,
yes.
colleagues.
Yes.
That's Nigerian
So
factor.
we've been
it
arguing,
will
like,
die there.
It's important that, put a legal practitioner there.
There should be a legal practitioner there. However,
That
they
is-
shouldn't all be legal
The
practitioners.
law does not say legal practitioner should be there. So we are just following the law, what the law says.
Is
Okay.
there a lacuna there somewhere?
Well, I know in some case there is not a lacuna because it is where the law does not provide for it and another one in another country.
You know, there's this case, I'm sorry to digress a little bit, the Bobrisky case, where EFCC was accused of embezzlement. And then there was this news piece that said EFCC investigates, EFCC. And it's laughable. I mean,
Yes,
if
I
I
saw it
accuse you of
online.
something, it's laughable if you
Exactly.
are told to investigate yourself.
So you can't be a judge in your own
You
cause.
can't be a judge in your own cause.
Yes, you can't be a judge in your own cause. So when we look at it, and we've had issues like that, and we were like, we do think that the law should be reviewed and be amended to include a medical practitioner in that body of counsel, that tribunal, so that we can be objective.
Okay.
It's very imperative that we are objective.
Yes.
Although when a patient goes to a medical practitioner, they develop a kind of relationship amongst themselves. So a relationship that says, I submit myself to your treatment. However, the medical practitioner has a duty of care.
Okay.
All right. So, have there been cases of negligence that have passed through your table at any point in time?
Definitely, there have been a number of cases.
Can you tell us a little bit about them? And
Okay, we've had issues of the gunshot, taking a patient to a hospital.
A gunshot.
Someone who had a gunshot victim, taking them to the hospital, and the hospital reject the person. However, under the compulsory treatment of patients with gunshot wounds, every hospital is supposed to treat any person with gunshot wound, then report it
To the police.
to the police. But
You know that we've had that policy, we've heard about it, but how has hospitals complied? I mean, what's the level of compliance? And when are we actually talking about? Is this recent or is this some 10 years ago?
this is as recent as last year. This is as
Wow.
recent as last year,
Please tell us about
2023. Somebody got shot there was a crossfire between between police and armed robbers, and the person was hit by a stray bullet. They rushed the person to the hospital, and they rejected the person. They said they have to go and get police report. I would say that the nurse on ground or whosoever gave that instruction was not aware of this law that was enacted in 2017.
Oh, as far back as 2017?
Exactly.
Wow.
But you can see that before then, 2017 is like six or seven years ago.
Yes.
So before then, a lot of Nigerians have gotten used to the fact that they have to go and get police report before any victim of gunshot wound is treated. But now, they ought to treat the person first. The hospital holds a duty to now report to this. The hospital that was supposed to report to the police.
So what was the outcome of the case with this gunshot patient?
That's another thing. The factor, the victim didn't want to. He got treated in another hospital, luckily, and he survived it. But it was like, you know, this Igbo language, like, nah, thank God, namu jindun we, but I came back alive. You know, he was just thanking God that he was alive, or if I was dead, what will I be saying? Because Rapunia, you know, just leave it like that.
Just leave it like that.
Just leave it. So that's the thing. So we have this culture, these social, cultural factors that people want to just leave it to God. They don't want to pursue all these things. Because if you ask me, that hospital ought to be prosecuted for that.
Has there been a hospital that has been prosecuted under your watch or something like that?
I have not seen one.
They usually settle outside of court.
They usually settle out of court, and you know the rigorous process.
Court process.
No, yes, the rigorous court process. The rigorous court process of one having to, like I said, investigation will be taken by a panel of investigation will be set up. Do you know how long the panel of investigation comes out with the results? Then do you know how long the tribunal comes up with a verdict? The investigation alone, you'll be hearing come tomorrow. We are still looking at it. Come tomorrow. I mean, and all that. So
we are working on it.
But I thought
and they keep frustrating the patient.
I thought the judiciary had undergone some kind of reform, you know, to ensure that, you know, these processes are cut short and some bottlenecks are removed from the, you know, the process, the judiciary process.
Maybe it's under election petition you're talking about, because I don't know.
And
Maybe
that's
election
it's not just that people don't want to litigate.
Yeah.
It's not just that they don't know their rights. It's just that when they think about the court process, you know, it takes the wind out of their lungs and they're like, I mean, what's the need? But Ambassador, let me get to you.
Okay.
What would you attribute, aside some of the things that we have mentioned here and now, what would you attribute reasons why people do not want to get redress, you know, for medical negligence and, you know, to get their rights, you know, as a healthcare consumer?
Please come again.
What would you attribute the reasons why people usually leave negligence, you know, to God to take care of, rather than seek for redress? Aside the fact that, okay, there are long court processes, you know, the financial burden. What other reasons? It could be spiritual, whatever you think. What other reasons do you think people would rather, let me just let it go, rather than seek redress?
Okay, I think one of the reasons is ignorance. Many people, like, as of that time, there are some things I don't know about that. Maybe it's was like first experience. Ignorance is one of the major causes why people just don't seek for redress about every of those kind of issues. Then secondly is the system.
What do you mean by that?
The system, like if it is a medical practitioner, practicing environment like hospital, the system, if there is no proper codes of conduct, because what makes right of a patient is built on ethics, medical ethics, and healthcare. So if there is no proper system that have codes of conduct, and not just having codes of conduct, it will have codes of conduct and have system of implementation of those codes of conduct. not just like making the, like if you, for example, if you look at some of the private hospitals and government hospitals, most of those nurses or workers or doctors, when they go to their private sectors, they behave themselves. Majority of them, they behave themselves because they know if either they are working under somebody or it's their own. They now come to a point, they take some measure, there is care, they practice some of those codes of conduct because they know that they are under supervision. If it is a doctor, a lawyer, or a nurse, sorry, that is working under someone, she knows that her work is at stake, she can be queried, her salary can be deducted, or she can be sacked. Are you getting me? So you find out, like, for example, like I told you, the event that happened to me and my wife the first time, and second time, by God's grace, God have replaced the child. Wow, have a baby girl. And we went to private sector this time around, private hospital. One of the experience is top notch. Everybody is working because there is a code of conduct, there is a working system. One is for you to have a working system, and then you have a system that implements those codes of conduct. People know that if they don't come in the hospital before, once you come for work, whether you're a cleaner or a gate man, you go and put your biometrics at the registration portal, and you have to be there before time. So most of those people that will even go to those kind of other sector and then just come and do anyhow, just do anyhow. And you find that some of them find that they're under supervision. They have serious and strict supervisors. They behave. So one of the reasons that, one of the things that I think that people just, because even if you complain, there will be no redress to it. There will be nothing will be done about it. The events keep reoccurring because of lack of a system, a proper system that works, work effectively. There is codes of conduct. There is consequences to every of your work. There is penalty to every of your default, and there is also judgment to every other thing you face. So people sit up where there is law.
All right, so let's go over to social media to find out what people are saying concerning this very topic. But we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, Inside Health continues. Don't go anywhere. And if you're just joining us, this is still Inside Health on Signature Television. And we're going to go over to what people are saying concerning the subject matter, the right of the patient, all right? Understanding the right of the patient. All right, so we're starting with the Nigerian doctor on X says, but let's first go over to Mr. Ubong. Mr. Ubong on X says, dear Nigerian patients, question everything. It is your right to know. If they are giving you drip, ask for the name. Ask what it's for. If they request a lab test, ask the name. And then in response, Nigerian doctor says, Nigerian patients ask questions. Nigerian doctors have nothing to hide. We will even tell you without asking. Why? The more you understand, the easier your job. Your recovery journey turns out better. It's called patient education. It is central to our management plan. Eniti Oluwa says, my dad's surgery was successful and we all rejoiced. A few hours later, his airways were blocked and he was poorly suctioned. In Nigeria, if wrong diagnosis doesn't kill one, poor handling or lack of experience or equipment will. Nigeria is a death trap and we aren't talking enough. He continues to say, he was looking forward to singing, that's talking about the dad, he was looking forward to singing the national anthem at daybreak on October 1st, but he didn't make it because the country he loved so much couldn't provide a suction machine in a teaching hospital. The doctors took every precaution, but the Nigerian factor still showed up. Shame. Continuing, he says, the pain of losing someone who should be alive is excruciating. We spend money and time to keep him alive, but a simple machine was absent to revive him, a whole teaching hospital. And finally, he says, I long to see a day when medical personnel will go on strike because they lack the necessary equipments to work. It's okay to agitate for salary increase and allowances, but tweak the narration a bit. Don't you feel any emotions when patients die due to lack of equipment? Agitate. Our condolences to you, Eniti Oluwa, on the loss of your father. All right, guys, you've heard. So on one hand, someone is saying there are lack of equipment in a teaching hospital, and then on the other hand, someone is saying, question everything, ask the right questions, Personally, I've had that, once I went to the hospital, a particular hospital, and Ambassador, it will interest you to know that it was a private hospital actually that I went to, growing up. And I asked the question, being a medical, an allied medical student myself, and the doctor looked me in the eyes and said, do you want to teach me my job? Are you teaching me? I just sit down and hear what I have to say. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that has had that experience. So on the one hand, someone is saying, ask questions. On the other hand, somebody is saying it's lack of equipment, the doctors are not well equipped, agitate, to get these people to put equipment, in the hospitals. Barrister, what's your take on this, what we've just read out, people's reaction on X?
Like I said earlier, when you establish every doctor or every healthcare giver establishes...
Because we're not just talking about doctors.
Yes, that's why I said healthcare giver.
Yes.
Establish the fiduciary relationship.
What does that mean, please, in English?
In layman English.
Okay. When you submit yourself to treatment, you establish a relationship between yourself and your patients.
But they tell you they don't have time. It's like one doctor to like 20 patients.
No, that's where the duty of care. That's where the duty of care comes in. You have a duty to care. Now, where you know that there's an equipment that's supposed to be there and is not there, that means every reasonable man foresees an injury in case anything goes wrong. So, in other words, if you go ahead and carry out, whether it's an operation or carry out a treatment, and knowing fully well that without that equipment, this treatment will not be successful, that means you've omitted what you ought to have done.
There's a whole lot of processes, a whole lot of activities involved in trying to get probably hospital management, really in the public sector, to, acquire or procure. It's not as easy, as that. So in an event where, because this ex-user is saying, is taking the blame totally away from the healthcare providers, from the doctors, and saying it's the government that's not been able to provide these things. Now, what you think is something one man can do, or you think is something like an association can do, or you think there's an underlying corruption, somewhere within the system. So it's like a multi-headed hydra. What are your thoughts on it?
We already know there's corruption in Nigeria. And just like the ex-user said, agitate for proper equipment. It's not only for increments in your salaries. She just said my mind. Like, I look forward to a day when caregivers, health caregivers will agitate for proper equipment. I pray that day comes as well. Because if there are proper equipments, the healthcare system will improve in Nigeria. As at 2021, as at 2021, WHO said we increased we went from 187 or thereabouts to, you know, and we are still
ranking.
Yes, in the ranking, out of 197 countries in the world. That means we are still below average. We've not gotten there yet. We've not even started.
All right, I'll get back to you. Ambassador, something just came to mind now.
Okay.
She mentioned, yes, there's corruption and things like that. But do you think because the people who access this service, healthcare service, are the regular Nigerians, you know, those in the political class, they don't access healthcare in Nigeria, you know, let's be
especially at that teaching hospital.
Yeah, especially at the teaching hospital.
That teaching hospital.
That teaching hospital.
Yes.
That teaching hospital.
All right. So, do you think there's something that can be done to make them begin to access, you know, healthcare in our space? I mean, when they know that their kids, their wards, their wives, relatives, whatever, will access, you know, healthcare in Nigeria, maybe they'll begin to do the needful. What do you think about that?
Is it the
political class?
Political
I'm talking about
class.
the political class now.
I think just like we are talking about negligence in the side of the medical practitioners, there is also negligence in the side of the political class. Because basically most of them don't access these things here, or they access the best in town. Like some of them, if anything happened to them, they fly to Abuja or Lagos. If they can't get in these two places, they just fly India or go abroad. So the challenge also, there is also a challenge of negligence in the side of the political class. So all we are saying, you know, every man and every woman knows what is good. And every man and every woman knows what is right. And every man and every woman knows what is just. The problem is man's decision, either to do what is right or to do what is wrong. So what can be done, even God cannot come down and do it for man, is man's decision to do what is right. That is what they call, I think, is self-policing. When you have to go with accountability, integrity, and all of that, good moral background. This thing is a moral demand we are placing. You can't force any man. Even God can't force us. This is a moral demand, both on the side of the politician and on the side of the medical practitioner, and on our own sides also. It's a moral demand for us to do our possible best within ourselves to know what is good and also what is right, or the ability to decide between what is wrong and what is right, or what is good and what is evil, and then do the right thing we're supposed to do, knowing fully well that each of these your decisions affects someone next to you, around you, either someone close to you or someone that is far from you, either someone directly or indirectly is affecting someone. Your life is not only for yourself. The life you are living, the decisions you are making daily have impact on people, either to one person or a group of persons. The decisions you make, you think it's my life after all. You make your decisions. No. The decisions you make affect people directly or indirectly. So what can only be done to man is this appeal of moral demand, the ability to work on ourselves, to do exactly what is right in the place of wrong thing. Because apart from that, if you start talking about they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that, we know there are so many things they are supposed to do. Just, they are not doing. Yes. So it's a moral call, a moral demand we are placing on ourselves. Anyone that knows what, we all have a background, either whatever the religion you come from. And the moral call and the moral demand that is from each of those backgrounds that impose on us, that we all owe one another.
Yeah.
So that is what I believe, if we can begin to look inside, inward, individually. I think there's something inside of us that is good that we can bring out for each other. And that is one of our moral and ethical values.
Yeah.
Because both health...
Talking as a coach now.
Yeah.
As a life coach.
Both at medical... The understanding this topic has to do with about ethics. Mainly, when I was preparing for it, it's about, they say that the bedrock or the cornerstone, that ethics, medical ethics, is the bedrock or the cornerstone of behind this topic. So is ethics what both at system level and at individual level is what will make it work. Ethics at system level and ethics at personal level, where there is code of conduct that guides the operation of everything, and there is system to make sure that those codes of conduct works.
Yeah,
Then we'll have a very good environment that will be good for all of us.
Brilliant. All right, before we let you guys go, barrister, because I'm sure someone is looking at you and saying, barristers, lawyers, they want people that will bring cases so that they will make money and things like that. I want you to speak to those people, tell them, okay, this and this and this are the things that you can do, even though you don't plan, on litigation or, placing a suit or something like that. What are the things a healthcare consumer can do to protect himself or herself?
Yeah, Dr. Chidi, everything is not actually about money.
Yes.
Everything is not about money. There are lawyers who do matters pro bono. Let's not take it out of it. There are lawyers who do matters.
Can you tell us about these
pro
lawyers
bono.
and how they can be reached?
How
pro
they
bono.
can be
First of all, thank you for that.
The word
People in our
that is
local
local language.
Free,
what is pro bono?
Which language is that one?
Okay, that is a Latin language.
Okay, Latin.
It's a Latin language.
So
okay.
it's at a very reduced, at no fee or a very reduced fee.
Oh, I've learned that one today.
So there are lawyers who render such services.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, everything is about money. You as a person, just the way you walk to a police station and write a petition, you can write a petition to the Medical and Dental Council.
Okay.
So against any healthcare giver.
Okay.
So you can write that petition and follow it up. If you feel like going through the legal means or consulting a legal practitioner is going to be very expensive, you can actually consult a legal, you can actually write that petition and follow it up. And if where you're not getting results, it is advisable to consult a legal practitioner. And people should not be scared. People should exercise their rights. The laws are there. But we are not exploring them because we are not enlightened, because we are not well informed.
Ignorant.
Yes. Every patient has a right to be treated on time, not to be delayed. They have a right
on time.
Yes, on time. They have the right not to be wrongly diagnosed. They have the rights. They have their rights are there under the National Health Act, and they should explore it and utilize it.
So you said people don't know their rights. So you mentioned National
Health Act.
National Health Act.
Yes.
So we need to go out there. The information is out there, online. Read it, know what your rights are. Rights not to be misdiagnosed and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Barrister. I wish we had more time to explore because I have like bundles of other questions and scenarios to play out, but time is against us. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And again, our condolences on the loss of your baby and congratulations
yes.
on the birth of your baby. All right, but before we wrap up this segment, we have an IQ challenge. And we will advise you to go on over to our social media platforms at Signature Television Official on Facebook, on YouTube, to participate. Follow at Signature Television Official and at Dr. Chidi on Facebook and Instagram, of course, on YouTube. You submit your answers. Of course, I'm going to read out the challenge to you in a bit. Submit your answers by commenting on our Inside Health post. You got that? Our Inside Health post. Winners will be selected randomly and given the chance to be a guest on our Inside Health program where they can participate in our live discussions. Now, listen carefully. Today's Inside Health IQ trivia is: which medical condition was first described in ancient Egyptian text as a falling sickness and is still a major focus on health research today. I'll take that again. Which medical condition was first described in ancient Egypt, ancient Egyptian texts, as a falling sickness and is still a major focus on health research today? This week's Inside Health IQ Challenge, of course, is sponsored by Seizure Support Foundation. Seizure Support Foundation is a health and education-based non-governmental organization committed to bridging education and health gaps caused by the exclusion of children with special needs in Nigeria. Once again, thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us.
Thank you.
I am still your host, Chigichi Agorom. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you learned a thing or two. See you some other time. Bye.